Hello everyone, Maria Young here, welcoming you on behalf of Shepherd Aware, Green Spaces for Health, Cork Healthy Cities, Cork Chamber, the Environmental Research Institute and the Cork Environmental Forum. This is the last of our series of Greening Our City for this term, and we're delighted to welcome our guest speakers, Phil Cohn, Mary White and Margaret Cox, to talk about how can a 4-day working week contribute to sustainability and well-being. Our moderator is Denise Cahill from Cork Healthy Cities, and Denise will formally introduce our guest speakers shortly. The presentations will last about 40 minutes or so, and as ever we will open up to questions from the audience. So you can start entering your questions as soon as we begin, and we are recording this session for the archives. Thanks very much. I'll pass you over now to Denise.
Good afternoon, everybody. You're all very welcome to this afternoon's Greening Our Cities webinar event. This is the last webinar event before the summer, and we will be taking a summer break. I'm delighted now to introduce Margaret Cox. Margaret is a 4-day week, 3-day weekend advocate and director of the ICE Group, Pitman Training and Western Management Centre. Margaret has a unique experience in leading and managing businesses and has enjoyed a successful career in Irish national government, 10 years as a senator. Margaret's goal is to make people's lives better, that of her team, clients, community and society at large. So we're delighted and thrilled to have Margaret here this afternoon, and I'm going to hand over now to Margaret to hear from her. Thanks, Margaret.
Denise, thanks a million, and good afternoon, everybody. I just thought I probably should lay my bona fides on the table and say that with a nod to my Cork connections, which come to me via my father-in-law, who's from Monkstown in Cork. So that's what they say to me. You got to get started with, feel that you're part of the system. So I'm delighted to be joining you this afternoon, and thank you for the invitation. I'm just going to share my screen, if that's okay, and try and keep myself to target. And I'm also happy to take questions during it. If you have questions that you want to share, feel free to stick them into the chat, and I'll deal with them as I'm going along. So look at, I suppose, let me start off, and I'm assuming, Denise, give me a thumbs up there. Everybody can see my slides. Yeah, okay, perfect. Thanks a million. And let's just go into slideshow. Okay, so ICE Group or ICE Group, depending on how old you are or how well you know us, is a 3-day weekend company, as we like to call ourselves, or a 4-day work week. And that's because we chose a particular type of model, and I'll come to that in a second. But maybe just to share with you who we are. We're an organisation based in Galway. We're 50 years in operation this year. We're celebrating our Golden Jubilee. I'm not quite as old as the Queen, but almost getting there. And we have offices in Galway, Sligo, Limerick. We have a sub-office in Sydney. We have a remote office in Dublin. And we work across the globe, delivering recruitment services to our clients, training and organisational development services to our clients, and outsourced HR and payroll services to our clients. Our motto has always been that we change lives. And what that really means is that we're changing the lives of the people that we place in jobs. We're changing the lives of the people that in the companies where we've placed the people. And we change the lives then on a daily basis of the people who work with us. But we were always more focused on the looking outwards rather than looking inwards. So we wanted to make sure, as we planned for 2020, for the next 4 years, we were making our plan. We wanted to make sure that actually we could do something for our employees, and that by investing in our employees in terms of making a substantial change, which turned out to be the 4-day week initiative, 3-day weekend, that we would actually make a difference to the lives of our employees. And I'm not an evangelist, and I'm not a Holy Mary or anything like that. We're a business, and we say this all the time. Our business is to generate sustainable profitability, to create employment, and to make sure that we're doing the best we can for our clients, 100% customer satisfaction, and we're doing the best for our employees to make sure that they've got sustainable employment that provides them well-paying jobs that they can be proud of coming into on a daily basis. And in our case, on a daily basis means only the 4-day week. So in 2019, May of 2019, in actual fact, we've just passed our 3rd anniversary of the day that we announced the project to the team. And we called the team Project 475100. And one of the things you'll probably hear from me as we start talking through this is the importance of language and the importance of the concept and how it fits into your business, and the importance of winning hearts and minds so that people travel with you on the journey. And those people are the people obviously who are on your team and on your staff, your clients, and then the community in general. So we called our Project 475100. The reason for that was very much that our telephone number is 091 475 100. We thought nothing better than get it out there and let everybody know who ICE Group was. Again, coming back to being, I suppose, unequivocal about the need to be a business and for it to be sustainable, because we were going out on a limb in May 2019. So we recognized at that stage, and again, if we can possibly cast our minds back to pre-pandemic days, you know, in those hazy days when we all worked 5 days a week, there was no remote working, nobody knew. In fact, I don't even know it was Microsoft Teams invented. I know it was, but nobody really knew. And many companies weren't even considering inventing or investing in Microsoft Teams because we were happy with the kind of stuff that we had at that point in time. So we wanted to find more ways of motivating our staff. We wanted to be more flexible. Our modus, our vision for the 4 years from 2020 to 2024 was we want to be a world-class organization that inspires others. And we recognize that many organizations in this world are world class, and we recognize it's a nice tagline to put up there, but we actually wanted to go a step further, and we wanted to inspire other organizations. And as I sit here now coming into the middle of 2022 and 3 years on, we feel that we've partly achieved some of that vision in terms of inspiring others to take on this 4-day week journey in whatever format it is. So we offered our employees to switch to a 4-day week model. We have over 60 employees now and a national client base and some international clients. And we realized that to make a difference, we were really going to have to make changes. So the changes that we proposed to our staff on the 24th of May 2019 were, we're going to work 4 days out of 7. Everybody will continue to receive 5 days pay. So we're not reducing our pay. It's not a cost reduction here. There's no cost savings for you of 20% of your payroll. That's not on the cards. But equally, we wanted to maintain 100% customer satisfaction. And we wanted to make sure that everybody could achieve 100% productivity based on what we were doing before we went into the program. So that's what we were about. 4 days out of 7, 5 days pay, and 100% customer satisfaction. So what we needed to do at this stage, and we look back and we say, well, how did we do this process? And people are very interested in the nuts and bolts. We can all have a dream, but until we start putting, the world's first aeroplane would never have flown if we didn't put wings on the engine. So we have to have a concept and we have to have a process around the vision and the dream that we had. And I think it's really important. And again, this is my challenge to you if you're here and you're looking at how many, is this something we can look at? You wanted to see, well, who is it going to impact? Is it some of our team, all of our team? Who is it going to impact in terms of our customers? Who are the stakeholders in this group? Do we have shareholders? Do we have a board of directors? Are we a public company, a private company? Am I a 5-person show? Am I a 2-person show? Am I a 500-person show? So who will be involved? And then you need to think about your why. And this is really important. If you haven't figured out your why about going on to a 4-day week, well, then don't do it, because you're never going to make it. You really, really need to understand what's in it for you, what's in it for your customers, what's in it for your community, and what's in it for your stakeholders. And then you need to think about the hard stuff. You know, it's like, do I have enough petrol in the car? Do I have enough oil in the engine? How am I going to do it? What technology have I got? What is it going to cost me? Is it going to cost me anything, or am I actually going to save money? And like I said to you a few minutes ago, thinking that this is going to be a 20% saving on your wage cost, well, you're in the wrong business, because that's not going to work for you. That's not what we're trying to achieve here. And then the implementation. I mean, we all know, and we've all of us on this call, I'm absolutely certain, have gone through processes where we've had visions and we've had goals and we've had project plans, and where we have fallen down in achieving success is all around implementation. So we need to have a strong plan, a strong project plan built on foundation that is made up of the who, the why, and the how. And you work on your implementation. And then you look at your outcomes. And it's really important to know what outcomes you want, which ties into the why. Because if you don't know what outcomes you're expecting at the end, you're really not going to know if you're very successful. So when somebody comes to you and says, oh, you're what kind of a foolish person are you, working 4 days a week and giving people time off on a Friday, and you get nothing for it. And if you don't know what your outcomes were expected to be, what outcomes you wanted them to be, then you sit there and you think, gosh, did I do something wrong? And that self-doubt takes away from the confidence around the business itself. And what I might do is just somebody give me a thumbs up there if is it making sense? I'm not going too fast or anything like that, Denise. Yeah, I'm doing okay. Thanks a million. And that's the problem with these webinars. We can't see anybody, so it just gets a little bit hard. So I'm just going to take you a step back to our why. And again, I'll talk about it in more detail. But why did we consider it? I mentioned to you a world-class organization that wanted to inspire others. But your why might be different. You might have different reasons. It may be talent retention. It might be talent attraction. It might just be, actually, it's a better way of life. And you might be in an organization that is sustainable within itself. And if you add this into it, it will continue to be sustainable. So you need to be really clear about your why and spend time in trying to identify it. Bring together groups of people, or a group of people within your organization when you're thinking about it. It's not a one person, a one man, one woman job. You need to have a team of people working on the why, understanding the why, understanding the what's in it for us and why would we do this, because you're going to have to absolute clarity on what's going on, and you need to write it down. And you know that old saying that if a plan isn't a plan if it's not written down, a why isn't a why if it's not written down. So make sure that you're clear on that. And here's the question: why would you do it? In fact, here's another question: why wouldn't you do it? And people come up to me and they say, why would I do a 4-day week? And I turn that back to them and I say, well, here's your question: why wouldn't you do it? Because if you can make it work, the benefits are absolutely outstanding. And it's not the benefits just to you or your organization or your customers, but it's to community, to society, to the climate at large. All of those pillars that we talk about, and sometimes we talk about the plans about greening our city. Well, I wonder, if I stop driving to work 1 extra day a week, or then if I've stopped to drive 1 extra day a week to work because I'm on a 4-day week, and also I'm working at home for 2 days a week, well, what are we doing to our environment in that situation? We're certainly pulling back in terms of emissions. So that's very important. So my advice to you is, if you're not clear on the why, then you're not clear on your direction, and this isn't the time to start your journey. Let me give you a tiny example. So when we were thinking about putting this to our staff, and remember, I'm talking about 2019. Everybody today has probably heard about the 4-day week phenomenon. Back in 2019, the only person who was talking about it was a wonderful man called Andrew Barnes from Perpetual Guardian in New Zealand, and he was the person we had started to follow. When we made the announcement to our staff on the 24th of May, took everybody together into the one room, we had about 54 people in the room at the time. Now, in fairness, we didn't think about this, but they were a little bit anxious because they were thinking, what are they bringing us together for? Is it that we are going to lose our jobs? Is the company closing down? Is there something going on? So there was a bit of anxiety that we really didn't think about at the time, because this was highly confidential until we rolled it out. And we made the announcement and we said, Project 475-100, 4 days out of 7 you work, you get 5 days pay and 100% customer satisfaction. And we had silence. there was absolute silence in the room. And people started looking around saying, where's Candid Camera? What's going on here? Are they saying I'm getting a reduction in my pay because they didn't hear the 5 days pay? What? No, this is ICE Group. You work as hard as you can for 100% customer satisfaction, and they're giving us the day back. Really, they've lost the plot. They were looking for us, you know, were we smoking pot or whatever? What was going on here? So it was really, really very different. And in order to prepare for this, we needed to know the pros and the cons. And we needed then to have strategies to deal with the cons. So one of the things that we did, and I think you'll probably enjoy this concept, is we put together our pessimist committee. And our pessimist committee was 3 people in the organization, one who was really, really senior. She'd been with us for 19 years. A young graduate who had come in, one of the actually not millennials, probably Gen Zs or one of these things, you know, who believe that working is about living to work, not working to live, which is brilliant. And then we had one of our senior operational managers who had huge stability, organization, project management experience. And their brief was, find out all the problems that we think we're going to come over, bring them to us, and we will see, can we find solutions? So that when we came to making the announcement, and the hands eventually after we broke for lunch and people realized, actually, this is not a dream. You know, this is something that is on offer. This is a big thing. This is a change that nobody's ever heard about before on the island of Ireland. So when we brought this in, they started to say, okay, here are our problems. What are we going to do about the customers? When they ring on a Friday and I'm not there, who's going to look after them? How am I going to talk to my colleagues if I'm out on a Friday and they're out on a Monday? How are we going to do our job in 4 days when, God, it's kind of hard enough to do it in 5? And that's a real fear for people. And you need to be able to say to people, yeah, absolutely. And then you need to be honest with people. Well, you know, maybe if you spent less time on WhatsApp when you're sitting at your desk with your mobile phone beside you, you might save 5 minutes every hour. Or maybe if you didn't send 10 emails copying every Tom, Dick and Harry on them, so that every Tom, Dick and Harry is getting 10 emails, and we're running through our email boxes and we're so busy. Gosh, oh my goodness, we're so busy. I have 500 emails and I'm fantastic, but are they wasteful? So we needed to identify the waste in the organization. And that's more of the how, and I'll come back to that in a second. So that was our why. We wanted to change the lives of the people who worked for us. We needed to do that because we wanted to achieve our vision. And then it was time for us to move on and look at the next stage in the process. So we realized that what we wanted to do was to change the culture of our organization. And to change the culture, we needed to change things like our language. It changed the way that we looked at something. I mean, I'm sure we've all worked in organizations when the person who thinks they're working the hardest is the person who switches off the lights at 9 o'clock in the evening and they're running out the door going, oh, had such a tough day. Oh my goodness. That whole concept that came to us from the United States of presenteeism, you have to stay at your desk longer than your boss. Well, hold on here a second. We wanted to change that culture. And I was the biggest culprit of it. I didn't feel that I worked hard in the week until I certainly worked hard, longer hours than anybody else in the organization. So I'm one of those lead by example bad people. I was doing it. And if I'm really honest, I probably looked at people as they walked out the door at 5:30 going, oh, they're on a half day. Oh my goodness. And I'm still here till 6 o'clock. We needed to change that. And it was a big learning for us. It was a big challenge for us. And we really needed to learn how to make a difference around it. So we started with the language of what we were doing. So 4 days a week, you're going to have 1 day off. We first of all started to call it our scheduled day off, or SDO, which was our scheduled day off. Then the next stage that we went to was we changed it to, because SDO is kind of boring, it's not really nice. So we changed it, we called it our Genius Day. So now if you work in ICE Group and you work on the Monday to Thursday rotation, you're off. You work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You're off Friday, which is your Genius Day, and Saturday and Sunday. So that's what makes up your 3-day weekend. If you work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday is your Genius Day. So your weekend is on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, Monday being your Genius Day. And then the whole concept of a Genius Day, why do we call it that? Because we wanted to change the culture. We wanted people to think this is something to be proud of. This is something we want to be part of. This is something that's really going to make a difference to our lives, to the lives of our customers, to the lives of our families, to the lives of our communities. So that was culture. Another thing in terms of culture, going back to the presenteeism culture, well, we made it okay. The focus now is not on the time, but on the output. So we need to clearly define around roles and responsibilities. What's the output we expect? And then by defining the output, we can define the input. By making changes in terms of how it's okay to sort of, we have a little stick man, you can buy them in IKEA for $9.99, but we have a number of them around the office. So if you're sitting at your desk and you want totally focused time and you don't want somebody to distract you, get one of the stick men and you put it on your desk, and basically it says, please stop, don't disturb me unless the world is falling in and I have to do something about it. So again, those were the small little things that we worked on in terms of culture. And I'm again conscious of time, so I'll speed up and then probably go on a tangent and slow down, and happy to take questions. So our culture changed. It was okay to focus on outcome. It was okay to challenge, challenge with compassion, or challenge with positive intent. So if somebody's wasting your time, and you know, well, I work a 4-day week, so I've got to be focused on what I'm going to do, because I've got to produce 100% productivity in those 4 days. You needed to be able to challenge your colleague and say, you know, get on the boat with me here and let's row together, or get off the boat because you're holding me back and I haven't time for the chat at the water cooler. I can focus, I'll talk to you when we're having a coffee break up in the canteen, or we can do it offline, but I'm not spending, you know, the first 20 minutes when I come in the morning talking about where I was last night and how many drinks I had, etc., etc. And that's not to say we've become an institution that doesn't talk. But what we do is we make sure that we talk, but we also get our work done in the most effective, streamlined, lean manner, eliminating waste. And the waste is, meetings was the next thing that we did in terms of waste. We cut down on the waste around meetings, and we understood that it was okay, and that's the culture again. It was okay not to be invited to a meeting. Didn't mean that you weren't any good, just meant that there was no need for you to be there, so you could continue on your own work. So what you're probably saying to yourself is, this one is mad. I'm glad that she isn't from Cork, and maybe she's better off up there in County Galway, in Connemara, because they're nuts. But I'm going to tell you, let's look at the outcomes and benefits. And I know this is now in the middle of this, we're in the afternoon session. You need to listen to this, because here we go. 27% increase in productivity. We didn't even just achieve 100% productivity in 4 days. We actually exceeded that by 27%, and we measured it. We set the process in place with the measurements in the 6 months beforehand. We knew what we needed to achieve in the trial, and we know what we've needed to achieve since. So we've achieved 27% productivity. We have had no serious unplanned attrition. Now, before this, I used to be able to say we had no unplanned attrition. In the recent past, since COVID has happened, what we're noticing, and I don't know if I'm excusing myself or not, but what we're noticing is where we're losing people, and we have lost some people, we've lost them to the public sector, where they're going into jobs that are stable, secure, and we think that's a result of COVID, that as we went through the journey, and why we didn't put anybody on short-time leave, or nobody lost their job, the business continued. There was always that anxiety there about if something went wrong, and that anxiety in the public sector wasn't really there as much. So we're sensing that we're not losing people to our competitors or to other jobs. We're only losing them to more what would be considered stable, pensionable jobs. So we're certainly seeing a little level of attrition moving up. In terms of absenteeism, this was another key measurement. We reduced to 3 times single day absenteeism in 1 year. So in our entire workforce, only 3 people had 1 single day absenteeism per person. What that means is that the Monday morning, oh, I ate something last night and you know, my curry was bad and I've been sick all day, or sick all night, I can't come into work on Monday morning. That went out the door. We don't have any of that anymore. And we put that down to the 33% increase that we've had in happiness and wellness. And that's because the model that we've chosen, which is the 3-day week model, 3-day weekend model, people have a day usually to themselves, either on a Friday or a Monday, and then a weekend maybe spent with their family or whatever they would normally do at the weekend. And that sense of de-stressing, getting energy back, refocusing, and coming into work with a joie de vivre. I mean, our tagline is focused, energized, and happy. And that's what we ask people. If you can be focused on your job when you're here, Monday to Thursday, Tuesday to Friday, if you can bring the energy with you that you have from your 3-day weekend, and if you can be happy, that's all that we ask. And then we see the outcome in increase in productivity, reduction in attrition, reduction in absenteeism, and an increase in our wellness scores, and making people happier, weller. And that's broader than just the individuals who work for us. It's their families and their friends and the difference that they're making in their communities. So in terms of the how, and some of it I've talked a little bit about, but how would you make it work in your organization? And I went back to the why a few minutes ago. Why would you do it? And once you're clear on what it is that you want to achieve and why you might want to achieve it, how are you going to make it work in your organization? What do you need to do? What are the key things that you have to have in your organization? And these are the questions that you need to think. You know, does your business, can it work a 4-day week? Why wouldn't it work a 4-day week? Are you open 5 days or 6 days? 6 days. Do you want the fixed flexibility model, which is, you know, you can take any day off or you can take certain days off. So we're on a fixed flexibility model. You take either Monday or Friday off. You don't take any day of the week off. Some people have work Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, work Thursday, Friday. So it's about what's in your organization. Some people can take any day off during the week and they're in charge of their own. But we felt from our point of view, we wanted to have fixed flexibility. The other thing, and again, to be really honest with everybody here, there is this concept that you can, it might be 100, 80, 100, 100% of the work done in 80% of the time for 100% of the pay. For many organizations, that dropping of 20% of the time doesn't make the keeping of the 100% productivity possible in the initial phases. So it's something that you need to go to. So what we did is we went from a 39-hour week to a 36-hour week. So we didn't drop 20% of our hours. That's our plan as we move forward, to sort of each 6 months reduce those hours. We kept the 100% pay. We reduced it to 4 days, which got a little bit longer than we would have been used to. We shortened our lunch break from 1 hour to 30 minutes. And that's how we achieved the shorter working week. So definitely shorter. And the plan is to reduce it more as we go forward by probably 15 minutes a day every 6 months, so that we get down to 8.5 or 8.25 hour days. And again, that was a decision that was made by the staff from the bottom up, because they really couldn't think, they really didn't believe that if we went from 39 hours to 32 hours, it would be sustainable in terms of getting the work done. So those are the kinds of decisions that you need to think about in your organization. I'm conscious I've 14 minutes left. I kept thinking, no, I have 4 minutes left. Isn't that right, Denise? 4 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, you have four or five or 6 minutes. No,
Okay.
no rush, Margaret.
Perfect. So how are you going to do it? What are the things you need to do? You need to do an audit on your HR. You need to think, what changes do you need to make? You need to see as the cross training that you need to do, because who is going to cover your clients on the day that somebody's not out there? Some organizations need to have that cover. Other organizations don't. Other organizations are in a position that the client can wait until Margaret comes back on Monday. There's no absolute urgency that they talk to Margaret on a Friday. You want to look at your KPIs. What measurements do you have in place? In fact, do you even have measurements in place? Is that something that you've actually done before? Do you know how to measure your business? What's the important part? What are the key success factors in your business? In our business, in training, the key success factors are the number of training days that we do every week, every year per person, per trainer. In our recruitment business, it's the number of jobs that we take on, the number of interviews that we fill, the number of CVs that we get for the interviews. So we're a very metric driven organization, and we always were. So that was an easy thing for us to do. And then the big thing, and this is really, you know, without even any of the rest of the stuff, it's the time wasters. And if you're brutally honest with yourselves, you know, I just before I came on here, I was on a 15-minute meeting that in the olden days would have taken 45 minutes. And it takes 15 minutes now because we're focused, we have an agenda, we're clear, we read the agenda before we come to the meetings, and I'm sure we've all gone to meetings and we've just, you know, pulled it out of the back. You know, oh, I don't need to prepare for this. And you go in and you spend the first 20 minutes, everybody talking around what you should have talked around before you even came into the meeting. So what are the time wasters in your organization, and what are you going to do about them? So that's, if you like, a whistle-stop tour in relation to the project. So what we've done in ICE Group is we've moved to a 4-day week. It's a 3-day weekend model. And before I finish, I just wanted to, and I think this was something that Margaret had asked me, or maybe it was yourself, Denise, that asked me to do. In Ireland at the moment, there's a trial underway funded by the government, and there are 17 companies who are undergoing a 6-month trial. And by all accounts, they're halfway through, and it has been highly successful. The great thing about being part of a funded trial is you get assistance in how to put your measurements in place, how to train people better around time management, how to really make the 4-day week a success for your organization. And across the globe, just so you think it's not just an Irish phenomenon, across the globe, there are, with 4-day week global, there are 160 companies going through trials. There are 7,500 employees involved in these trials, and the trials are happening in Ireland, United States, New Zealand, Canada, Australia, and the United Kingdom. So we're constantly seeing a change. I mean, the amount of queries I get in now from people who are doing a thesis on the 4-day week gives you an idea that we are at the vanguard. We are really out there in front in terms of making a change. And the last time a change such as the 4-day week was made was when people didn't have to come into work on a Saturday anymore. And that's a long time ago. It's certainly not this century, and it's more than 100 years ago. So it's time for a change. And that is the end of my homily for today. And I'm happy to take any questions. I hope it was, I don't know, I hope it was useful to people, and I'm delighted to take any questions when you're doing the questions and answers.
Thank you, Margaret. That was fantastic, really inspiring. And we will have a panel. We're going to do a slightly different structure in today's webinar to our usual. We'll have a panel of the 3 speakers at the end for questions. So thank you to those who have posed questions. Continue to do that. That's fantastic. I'll put those questions to the panel. So I'm just going to introduce you to our next speaker, which is Phil Cohn, the owner and MD of Academy Crests, a family-owned business that has grown over the past 36 years into the largest embroidery manufacturer in the Munster region. And Phil is going to talk to us about his experience in the 3-day weekend, 4-day working week. Thank you, Phil. You're on silent, Phil, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Thanks, Denise. Great presentation, Margaret. Thanks for all that. Hope you can see my slides and everything. Give me a thumbs up. That's great. Yeah, so we're one of Munster's largest embroidery companies. We actually started in 1986. My parents set up from a small room in their house, which is now their ensuite. So we really are a cottage industry that has grown, and we specialize in the supply and branding of all forms of clothing, from sportswear, teamwear, schoolwear, workwear, and we kind of ship it nationally. I started looking into the 4-day working week pretty much back in 2017, 18 kind of type. I was doing a lot of lean for the factory, and I wanted to try and look at ways of not only helping our team, but also looking at different kind of production wastes and bits and pieces, and I came across a lot of stuff in kind of New Zealand and some in kind of Canada that I was just kind of generally researching and looked at it. We at the time were doing a 37.5 hour week. So we were doing 8:30 to 5 Monday to Thursday and 8:30 to 2. So we always kind of had a half day on a Friday. Because my parents at the time believed, it was good to try and finish on a Friday and get away. They had a house in West Cork, so they used to disappear for that. And it was good for, I suppose, even a lot of the time, a lot of the team we had used to have to go to banks and do bits and pieces on Friday afternoons before kind of picking kids up. So they put that into place. And then it was kind of in January 2019, I sat down had a full team meeting and brought up the suggestion of trialing a 4-day week for 6 months and see what the kind of feedback would be. Our main concern would have been production loss. I knew it would probably improve the culture. I knew it would improve the general wellness and well-being of the team. But we did have concerns of production and whether or not we could maintain everything. And now we were only going from, as I said, 37.5 hour week to 36. So we went to a 9-hour day. But yeah, so I think the fact that we're still doing it 3 years later means that the general initial trial was a huge success. So just what I ended up doing actually, because I knew I was coming on this morning, was I actually got, there was 10 of the team were in yesterday. So I actually did a quick survey and asked them I just wrote out kind of 10 questions and wrote them out. And so it's a brief kind of presentation, but like the first one there was, do you think we have lost out on our production effectiveness because we have been on a 4-day week? And if so, why? And out of the 10 people, all of them pretty much said, no, we hadn't. The team pulled together. We knew we were on it. For us, it's a deadline business. So we are stuck with deadlines, and there was no real loss in production whatsoever. Which was great. Do we think that a 4-day week is a positive way for attracting talent? Everyone said yes, it was. Do we think a 4-day week is more sustainable and better for the environment? Generally, it's all yeses. I mean, because we're closed on a Friday, there's less electricity usage, less water usage, and then less commute. I mean, I know we're a small team, but everyone still commutes to the factory. Some travel a 20-minute drive. They're not doing that anymore for whatever it is, an extra 40, 45 days a year. One of the questions I asked was, do you think working a 4-day week puts more money back into society and local communities? A resounding yes. We did one of our CSR marketing team put up something on LinkedIn, or it was actually Instagram, sorry, asking all the team to send in pictures of what they did on the Friday they were off. And there was a whole range of between shopping, out with friends, meeting coffee. I've a great team of women that have kids, and they were delighted to do their shop when the kids are in school. It's free time for them. It's makes a massive difference. So again, as you can see from the graph, this was only answers from yesterday. There was a resounding positives from all of it. And then, has the introduction of a 4-day week made a positive or negative impact on company culture? And if so, why? Everyone is absolutely happier. They're saying they're completely happy. They have long. Every weekend is a long weekend. Sick leave is down. We did notice that, and then time off generally is, especially around bank holidays, is super because it's an extra day as well. Has the introduction of the 4-day week made a positive and negative impact on their lifestyle? Again, it's a resounding yes. I mean, the feedback was huge. Again, one of the negatives is because we introduced a kind of a 9.5 hour day with half an hour for lunch. Apart from being initially tired, most people said this is, they're used to doing it. It doesn't change their lifestyle. It's worth it to get an extra day. Nurses, some nursing and HSE employees and teams, they work 12, 13-hour days. Right, and this was a key one, which how would you feel if you were to all vote to return to a 5-day working week, and what sort of impact do you think it would have on the team and our company? Pretty much hung, drawn and quartered is about the only way I could say. Most people said it would have massive negative impact on morale. The team would be less motivated because the work-life balance wasn't there. And potentially people would leave because they get used to a 4-day week. They love the 4-day week, and they'd hate to see it go. Then one of the things was, if we were to gauge our overall productivity since moving to a 4-day week, how would you describe it? Again, similar to Margaret, everyone agreed that even though we've lost an hour and a half, the team were able to meet the same productivity KPIs. They were, better working together, and generally, the small wastes, as Margaret mentioned earlier, the general chit chat. I mean, it kind of went. I mean, the hanging around the coffee, waiting canteens. It's not that they don't do it, but no, they just streamline their time and do it during their breaks, their lunch. So again, one of the things I asked was, can you please list maximum of 5 things that you can do in an extra day? And pretty much out of the survey, you can see, I mean, some of them answered going to the post office, the bank, heading away on day trips. Some do study, some enjoy peace and quiet, arrange medical doctor's appointments, shopping, meeting family and friends was a massive one that people actually do. So housework and gardening. So they're all the extra activities that are being done. And you can think that, if people are going out meeting family and friends for coffees or doing, all these other activities on a Friday rather than during a Saturday or Sunday, it means they're probably spending more money in the locality and in the communities than they were previously doing a 5-day week. I did ask if they could please list some of the negative aspects of the 4-day week, and all of them, there was only 3. That totaled one of the challenges we had, because we are a deadline run manufacturing business, is that we do get rush orders, and it was again a concern, but we've yet to not make a deadline. I mean, the team, as I said, pulling together, like Christmas period will be particularly busy for us. So, we know in advance, and the team are happy to come in on an odd Friday to do some overtime if it means catching up and stuff that we couldn't get done. But again, it's far and few between. But the fact that they can still work a half day on a Friday and have the rest of the weekend off on very rare occasions, means it works. So that was mentioned, the overtime, and then tired due to longer days. I mean, that's about the only real negative effect that they're doing an extra hour a kind of day, but and I suppose because it is manufacturing, they're on our feet. So, but generally, overall, it's it was a very positive survey. And I just wanted to show the slide because this is, I don't know if people can make out the figures, but at least you can see the bars. One of the big concerns was productivity loss. This is our 10-year sales that since 2013 is on the far left, 2022 is on the far right. So we introduced in 2019 a 4-day week. Even with COVID, we've pretty much kept our own over the last 3 years. And the exact same is going to be said for this year, if not even better. So, you know, it kind of tells its own story, that, you know, we've been able to measure and manage all the productivity, and knowing from a sales KPIs and metrics that we've held our own. And as I said again, even with COVID, with reduced staff and bits and pieces, that we've continued our growth. So this was one of the quotes that one of my team put on the end of the survey, because I did ask for any other comments, and I thought it was quite good. And she just mentioned the 4-day working week leads to an overall increase in wellness. It supports family relationships and experiences outside of work, which leads to a more content and therefore more positive and productive workforce. A positive change which results in so many positive outcomes. And that's pretty much, you know, the way I see it. And like, I do feel that every company has the potential of being a 4-day week. It's not to say that a company has to be closed for the 5th day, but I think in teams and employees can easily work a 4-day week, and live a, I suppose, happier and healthier lifestyle. So, thanks.
Thanks a million, Phil. I think that last slide says it all. It's really interesting to get that feedback. I'm now going to introduce you to Mary White from Altada, who works as the People and Culture Manager at Altada Technology Solutions, who are the recent winners of the Cork Chamber Large Company of the Year Award. Altada is a global artificial intelligence technology solutions company that empowers organizations to make data-driven decisions predominantly in the financial sector. Mary is a former sports journalist, author, and member of the Work with Pride, Ireland's first LGBT+ professional business network. Thrilled to introduce you, Mary, and I'm going to hand you over now.
Thanks so much, Denise, and thanks, Phil and Margaret. It was lovely listening to you and your stories as well. You should be able to see my screen. You might give me a thumbs up. Perfect, great stuff. So thanks again, Denise. My name is Mary White, and my preferred pronouns are she, her, and I am the People and Culture Manager for Altada Solutions. We're headquartered in Cork, Ireland. So just to give people, I suppose, a brief background as to who Altada are. So we're an artificial intelligence company. We help our customers make data-driven decisions, and the company was founded in 2017 by a husband and wife team, Alan Beechner and Eve Parker. You can see them in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. In January 2021, they won the Cork Chamber Emerging Company of the Year Award, and just in the last few weeks, they've won the Large Company of the Year Award. And I started with the company in December of last year, and on my very first day in the HR induction, I was told, by the way, we're starting a 4-day work week. And I thought I'd hit the jackpot. You know, a new job, a new role, a new challenge. And in my first day, I'm told, okay, you're not working 5 days, you're working 4 days. So it was a huge, I suppose it was a surprise, but it was a huge draw for me in terms of my career and I suppose my lifestyle as well, and getting that balance right. I'm one of those millennials that Margaret mentioned earlier on, but it is very important. And to touch on, quite similar to what Margaret touched on, you know, the who, the why, the what, the where, and the when, and that's the journalist coming out to me and telling the story. But for us in Altada, it was about every employee. We work hybrid, so unlike Phil, we're very much part-time in the office. So we work 1 day in the office. We have 12 global offices around the world, predominantly in the US, Ireland, in the UK, and in India. We recently opened an office in New Delhi. We typically don't, we have 1 or 2 part-time employees, predominantly they're full-time. Why was that decision made last year? Well, it was essentially to promote a work-life balance and well-being, to get the best out of the best talent that we have in Altada. Our co-founders and co-CEOs, Niamh and Alan, are parents. They have 4 children as well. It's a startup. It's quite chaotic. It's tech again. So that's another layer. And of course, as leaders themselves, they wanted to have that work-life balance. It was a 4-day work week, similar again to Margaret. You know, you're paid for your full 5 days, no loss of holiday accrual, and no impact on employees' benefits as well. I mentioned where it was rolled out, so it was rolled out globally to all our employees, regardless of where they were located. And the decision was made to pilot the 4-day week in December until the end of February of this year. And that was quite interesting. And, you know, Mark did mention about the pilot schemes that are running as well. And I'd encourage that in the sense that it uncovers certain challenges, which I'll go into in a little bit. The pilot was then extended until May 2022. And again, the communications piece around that towards your employees, your stakeholders, your customers is quite important as well, getting that message across that, you know, our productivity hadn't reduced. And as of last Friday, we are indefinitely going ahead with the 4-day work week, which, you know, has been fantastic news for our employees. So the benefits that we've seen is education and development. I know personally for myself and a few other people that I would talk to regularly within the business, having the Friday off has allowed them to pursue other educational courses and have that time to study or, you know, write papers or whatever it is, you know, do a course online. And, you know, I think it was Margaret alluded to Genius Days. I think you have something similar like that. Reduce absenteeism, again, dental appointments, you know, medical appointments, whatever it might be. Typically people now will make those on their Friday, on their days off. So again, productivity increased and there was also reduced absenteeism. Improved health and well-being. We did our first well-being survey in April for Wellbeing Day. So we literally have, we're starting out in our journey. So we're only getting the benchmarks here based on those results, but you'll see in the next slide the benefits visually that our employees have had. Increased employee engagement from, I suppose, a CSR, ESG perspective. We have now recently hired an ESG officer, and there's 3 of the UN sustainability development goals that, you know, we're kind of targeting based on our 4-day work week. So, you know, one would be around sustainable cities and communities, number 11. Number 10, reduced inequalities, and the third one, of course, is being, you know, the well-being aspect of it, and that's from a talent attraction point of view, from an investor relations point of view. When you talk about your external stakeholders, that ESG piece is, you know, very topical at the minute. Talent attraction, I mean, you know, 4-day work week, you know, what's not attractive about that for people? And I mentioned increased productivity. The challenges, of course, is one of our values is being customer focused. And because we're scaling globally, you know, how do you accommodate our clients and our customers on a global scale? So that was something whereby I mentioned about piloting the program between December and February. So that helped us kind of iron out those little issues. So if, for example, if a customer did require something, we did need to get something over the line, similar to Phil, we might, you know, you may be asked to work on a Friday, but then you will be given the Monday off. And again, you're given advance notice of that so that you can plan accordingly. There is a transition period, and it's, you know, I'll be honest, it's not all plain sailing initially. You know, you might think this is absolutely fantastic, and it is. But there is an adjustment period like anything else, you know, that, you know, encompasses change management. There is going to be a transition period. One of the things, just for simple example, you know, people do initially were checking emails, logging on, sending emails. So we did have to do a training session around time management to, you know, educate our employees and again, communicate, you know, please don't be checking in on your emails. If you do want that time, think time on a Friday, if you do feel like you want to catch up on things, by all means do, but, you know, schedule your emails, you know, for the following week, and be respectful of other people's time on their day off. So there is an educational piece around that from a culture perspective, and just being conscious of those actions that you make that, you know, can impact, because you need to walk the walk. There's no point in talking the talk if you're not going to live by what you say. And this is just a short snapshot of, you know, visually, and I'll talk to just a few of these photographs just to give you a sense of if this is something that your company is thinking about. the overall, I suppose, impact that you do not see from a 4-day work week. So for example, in the top left-hand corner, you know, one of our leaders got to spend, you know, very high up leader got to spend time with their family on their Friday away, got to travel the country, you know, I suppose spend then economically within the community. We have a lot of employees who aren't from Ireland. So we have one employee who was able to fly to Barcelona to visit his grandmother who baked in paella, and they were able to spend that time together. So that, you know, that impact to give someone the power that they can make a decision around their own lives as well is hugely beneficial. We have an employee who is both a parent and a carer for both their parents. So by having the Friday off, because they care during the week for their parents, it allows them to have that free time on a Friday to spend with their children, which is, you know, hugely important. We have an employee who coaches in a sports team in Dublin, but they also have their own sports podcast. So again, they're contributing to their community at that level. We've been able to donate to local schools and go down and make presentations. Look, the parenting there, you know, forest walks. Myself, when I found out that it was a 4-day work week, I was like, okay, now I'm going to, you know, I've never got a personal trainer in my life, but I was like, okay, now I'm going to look after my well-being because I have the time. I've been given the time to be able to look after my wellness and my well-being. And a lot of people did that. Obviously hiking, I mentioned again, we've a majority of our employees are originally from India. So they've have the chance to have a long weekend to visit Ireland, to spend, you know, economically throughout the country as well. The top right hand corner, we discovered that one of our C-suite flies planes in their spare time. I know that might not be very sustainable, but you know, it is something that they enjoy in their spare time and that they can do, and it's quite unique. Phil alluded to having coffee with parents, and that photograph is actually, these are all photographs from our employees, and that one is, it allows one of our employees to meet their parents in their local village for a cup of coffee every Friday morning, connect with them and spend that time with them. And then there's the final image is, you know, I've been able to volunteer as a committee member for Work with Pride, which is Ireland's first LGBT professional network. And I've been involved in that since last December. And it's purely because I have the time to be able to commit to an organization like that and volunteer and give my time up, which then transcends into the community, which again transcends into the workplace. So it's all beneficial. And the reason why I wanted to show these pictures and visualize so that you can actually get a sense of, you know, people would think, well, what do you actually do on your day off? There's a lot you can do on your day off, but it also has a ripple effect within the community and the economy and further afield. So with that, that's me. And just to say again, on behalf of Altad and the Cork Chamber, thank you, and Denise, to yourself and Vicky as well for allowing Altad to represent today. So thanks very much.
Fantastic. Thanks a million, Mary. It was lovely to hear from you as well. So we've heard from 3 very different businesses in terms of your experience of delivering the 4-day working week, and there's loads of questions have come in to the chat box, which is brilliant, and I'd encourage you to continue to pose your questions as the discussion continues here now for the next half an hour. So just the first question from Moja Beng, are there, I know a lot of you spoke about the cost savings, but she's just wondering, was there any cost implications for implementing the 4-day working week? Was there any cost increases, I suppose? Who will I put that to? Margaret, maybe. Yeah.
I'll just come in first. I mean, so we implemented a number of technology changes. The first change we implemented was an investment in our HR system so that we could have automatic time and attendance, automatic holiday recording, automatic sick pay recording and all of that kind of thing. So there was an investment in time and attendance. Was that because of the 4-day week, or is it something we should have done beforehand? Who knows? It certainly saved time in the HR sense point of view, and I'm sure Mary will know sort of the tedium of sort of trying to keep appropriate records and keeping your HR files up and on. So that was one. Training, I mean, you do have to invest in training, and we do need to make sure that people are cross-trained. I have to say, would we have gone down the route of Teams as early as we did without the pandemic? Possibly not, but that has made a huge difference to how we do our business. And the ability that when I'm going home on a Thursday evening, it's really even just to type up a message, put it on the channel. If so-and-so calls tomorrow, here's where the files are. Don't forget to look there and tell them I said X, Y, and Z, you know. And equally then the person on the Friday does the update 2 seconds on the channel and then before they go home.
That's brilliant. So you invested to reap the benefit, and it was the
I think
initial
so.
output as such. Yeah, thanks for that, Margaret. Mary or Phil, have you any comments in terms of any costs that might have ensued?
No, similar, I suppose, to Margaret. Just you know, we did have that technology in our HR system, but we weren't availing of it. So again, it was just, you know, I suppose taking the time to train our staff and ourselves and educate. But you know, that was the initial. Other than that, there was no cost.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, and we were the same, Denise. I mean, we actually already, I suppose, because of the lean, we'd already had in place the HR stuff. So it really was. It kind of went from, you know, the team finishing on a Friday, in like the very start, we'll call it the start of January, and then turning up on a Monday morning in February and starting a 4-day week.
Wow.
And so we almost figured things out as they went. But yeah, so it was good. There was kind of zero investment for us. So it was,
That's great. And can I ask, are you all implementing the Friday off or the Monday off? I didn't pick that up from each of you. Is there a specific day of the week that you've chosen?
we've picked Friday, and like from what I was kind of Margaret was talking about earlier, is, you know, I suppose growth over the next year or two, we'll be building our team, and we probably will, you know, because we'll have the team to do it. You know, we'll probably do the Friday and the Monday, and just have. I mean, so.
Oh,
But
very
at the
good.
moment, it is Friday, that we close and there's no
Across the board.
productions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Same with you, Mary. Is it? I can see you nodding.
Yeah, just at the minute it's the Friday, but again, that piloting phase allowed us to kind of realize, well, we need to, you know, if there's a case whereby you need to be in on the Friday, then you subsequently would get the Monday off.
Brilliant. And Margaret, the same, is it?
Yeah, so our model is very much that fixed flexibility, Monday to Thursday off, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Tuesday to Friday, and then you're off Saturday, Sunday,
very
Monday.
good. The rolling,
So
yeah. Great.
it's in our model, and again, it's all built around that 3-day weekend, because that's what we believe is key to the success, is this 3 days together. I mean, we're all looking at one coming up the end of this week. I'm sure we're all dead excited about that. I am. So yeah, that's what we're doing, Denise.
Fantastic. Alan Gray is wondering, and I think this is an interesting question actually, did any staff not want to work the 4-day week? Because I suppose I'm conscious, I'm sitting here, I work a 3.5-day week. Now I do extra hours on those 3.5 days, but I'm a mother of small children. And, you know, sometimes I wonder, would I be better off doing the 5-day week, and mentally for my stress levels, because what I'm doing on the other day and a half is home related tasks, and I'm, you know, it's stressful. So I'm just wondering, did you get that kind of feedback that, look, actually would suit me better to spread my hours out and do it and resist the 4-day week? Margaret, I might ask you first.
Sure. We didn't have anybody who didn't want to do it. In fairness, in the beginning, there was an element of concern. And one of the things that came out of our trial actually was people have to learn how to be 100% productive in 4 days. So at the beginning in the trial, everybody who worked for us jumped on to a 4-day week. But from when we went live after the trial, what we decided to do was, if you come to join us, you go onto your probation, and the 6 months on your probation, you work 5 days. So you set the standards in terms of what you need to achieve. You understand how to learn the job. You're learning the job in the 5 days. And then on the basis of that, once you've passed successfully through probation, you automatically go on to the 4-day week process. And that's because there was that fear that this is too much to do. And I think we have to recognize that. And that's one of the challenges. And, you know, I realize I probably didn't talk an awful lot about challenges, but that was one of the challenges. While people wanted this and wanted desperately, in terms of the prize of only working 4 days a week, there was that worry, is this too much? And I think as well, and Denise, this is a really important point that you mentioned there. One of the things that I think I would hate to see in the 4 day week is it becomes something for mothers, so that, oh gosh, they can work 4 days and then they come home and they work in the home on day 5 and day 6 and day 7. And that to me would be, and the National Women's Council, actually, in fairness, are part of the steering group, the National Steering Group 4 day week initiative. And they have always highlighted that. I think it's really important that the people who do the 4 day week and the 3 day weekend, or whatever their extra days, gets a chance to sort of have it as an additional day, not just a day that's soaked up by housework or caring or whatever, you know, unless it's additional to what you would have done.
Thanks for that. Mary or Phil, was there any kind of pushback for your two?
No, I mean, Mary, I'll just hop in. I mean, for me, generally, I suppose the biggest concern that my team would have had was probably salary, you know, and reduced hours and all that. And because we agreed at the very start that there was going to be no loss of that, you know, all their benefits and everything was going to stay the same as a 5 day week. I think then they kind of went, well, you know, it's obviously really positive after that, because they weren't losing out. I mean, and like it would never work. It actually, I mean, it doesn't matter what company you're in, big or small, or you're a 3-man band or 500. If you turned around and told them, look, you're going to be out of pocket or down benefits, it just won't work. And you know, and it shouldn't be that. I mean, it's, you know, the fact that you're kind of doing it for all the positive and right reasons, then we were lucky, you know, we didn't get any kickback on that.
Yeah,
so.
which is fantastic, because I mean, not to keep drawing it back to myself, but say in my case, it's parental leave and reduced hours that I'm taking, so I am on reduced pay. You know, it's, I mean, the thoughts of being able to do it on your full salary and getting the hours in, I think it's a very fair system for staff, but it is an interesting question around pushback. Mary, you had just joined the company when they introduced it, so everybody thought you were the fairy godmother bringing it, I'd say. But were you aware of any pushback or anybody resisting it?
No, I wasn't. But I suppose whenever you introduce something new, there is always that element of, okay, what's the catch? So I think for me, my observation would be that it was a learning curve for everybody, and more so kind of about our daily habits and our daily behaviors in terms of our own productivity, and how you manage that as an individual, but also how do you manage that for your team? How do you manage that then across the organization? So there was a learning curve there. But I wouldn't call it pushback at all. It was, you know, just, I suppose, becoming familiar with new territory and how to navigate it.
Yeah. And that efficiency, you know, that you talked about is key to that, you know. Yeah, I think that's interesting as well. Somebody's asking again a practical question around annual leave. Phil, I know you mentioned there was no change in salary. Actually, all of you mentioned that. Did it impact on annual leave? Was annual leave reduced to coincide with it? No, Mary or Margaret? Phil, how about with you?
No, we were the same. Like, I know it can go kind of pro rata on the days you work, but like there was no loss. You see, you know, if you were working, I look at the entitlements, I think, or if you're working 5 days, the minimum is probably 20 days holidays, you know. But when you're down to 4 days, I think the minimum entitlement is 16 days, because, you know, if you're taking that extra day, so people don't lose out. It's, you know, and be it your part time or full time, you know, you get the same holidays you would, even if you were a 5 or 6 day week. So.
Very good.
And Denise, I might just come in here, because this is, people often ask about the bank holidays. So this is something you need to think about in your organization. And we thought long and hard about it with our team. in terms of what would happen. We knew as an organization that we couldn't maintain the productivity and the sustainability if in the bank holiday weeks, the weeks with the existing bank holidays, and there are 9 of them in the year, that we went down to a 3-day week. It just wouldn't work. So our agreement was every week is a 4-day week, and some of those weeks there would have been 4-day weeks anyway, regardless. So we just didn't, there wasn't plus 52 Fridays or 52 Mondays. It was plus 52 minus 9 that are used up for the existing bank holidays. But like to Phil's point as well, yeah, you have 4 weeks annual leave per annum. In this case, 4 weeks annual leave is 4 by 4 days, which is 16 days. So there was no change there. Nobody went down. Everybody went up by the plus extra day off that they had every week, less the 9 bank holidays. And that's the key thing as well. I think you've got to be really honest with your staff and to make sure that everybody, it's setting the expectation and clearly identifying what this picture is going to look like. And in all honesty, nobody's going to be fighting with you over the 9 bank holidays that they didn't get when they're getting 43 additional Fridays and Mondays.
Absolutely, yeah. And you mentioned, Margaret, about a trial that was happening nationally,
Yes.
and supports being put in place, which is wonderful. But we also had a discussion when we first met around, if this was mandated or there was a policy at national level that everyone had to work a 4-day week.
Yeah.
Can we just tease that out a little bit and get some perspective on that? If it was like obligatory that every workplace tomorrow had to do a 4-day week, what your views on that kind of an approach would be?
I think that it would, my personal view would be it would be an abject failure. I think that this is a thing that needs to come from the bottom up. I think the government should support it. Should say this is a fantastic initiative, and they're supporting it a little bit at the moment in terms of they've provided funding for research under the pilot study. But every business, every service is different, and you have to find individual service, individual responses and individual solutions. I can't run Mary's company, and I certainly can't run Phil's company. They maybe could run my company, but maybe not, I'd hope, as well as I can do it. So businesses are smart. Ireland is an amazing country, and we can do it ourselves. Mandating it across the board, I think, is just a recipe for disaster, to be really honest about it.
Yeah. Do you think so, that there's only certain industries that this fits for?
No, actually, I don't. I think every organization could make this happen. I think that if I go to, and I don't know, do we have this conversation? And Phil, you probably are better to sort of talk about this. But if my machine makes 100 widgets an hour, and I say to my machine operator, do you think you could make this machine make more widgets per hour than it's doing at the moment, every single hour, so that you wouldn't have to work on Friday? The person who works that machine is going to come back to you and tell you, I know how to make that happen. We need more preventive maintenance. We need better programming on the machine. We need less downtime. I need to get a little bit faster. We need better training and investment, but I can make that happen. Hey, you're going to let me off on Friday. So people's organizations, the people in the organizations will find, and it's about asking the question the opposite way. Not why would we do a 4-day week, or we couldn't do a 4-day week. It's about actually saying, how could we do it?
Yeah, problem solving.
And throwing that challenge out to people. And, it would be amazing the responses we get, I'd imagine.
Yeah. I mean, for years we were, certainly in where I work, it was a case that we couldn't possibly work from home, and yet when it came to it, we could. So there is something about trying something out, and this opportunity at national level now to trial it with support, I think is fantastic for various industries. I think what was interesting in all of your presentations, you all mentioned the community and social the positive impact on community and social. Can we just have a discussion maybe about that, Mary, Phil? Is like, what do you think are the key social benefits of this approach?
Well, I personally think, Denise, I mean, that, you know, the extra time, I mean, that, you know, people can do things, I mean, it is so invaluable to know. We'll, as pretty much we're all kind of saying, the Fridays is a common day for the three of us. You know, the companies, like all our teams on Friday are out and about, or, do you know what I mean, doing something other than working, either spending money or visiting, meeting people, you know, that, you know, we've 2 kids. Like, it can sometimes be very hard to try and meet grandparents and all that on Saturdays and Sundays and fit everything in, and, you know, cut the grass and do it. Do you know what I mean? The usual bits and bobs. And, you know, odd Fridays there, if it's sunny, like last week, you know, we picked the kids up at 2 o'clock and we were gone to the beach on a Friday afternoon. Do you know, that would have normally been a Saturday, but then you've hurling, you've camogie, you've this and that in the mornings, and, you know, and, you know, we stopped for a cup on the way home. So, and that's only me. I mean, but if you were to spread that across, you know, Munster, Connacht, Leinster, Ulster, the world, do you know what I mean? It's giving back to society, and so it is. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see any negative against it. I mean, that's.
Yeah. Mary, have you any view on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a lot of the benefits are actually intangible. You wouldn't automatically think of them straight off, you know, but I think one massive benefit is the well-being piece, you know, that the work-life balance, you know, whether that's, you know, that's that social pillar of well-being, you know, being able to go out and meet people and contribute to your community in whatever voluntary way that you want, you know, and that, you know, you're almost getting that time to think, that creative element back into what you do, whether it's in your personal life or your professional life, and you're bringing that back into the workplace. And it's, I know they talk about circular economies, but that's kind of, you know, viewing it like that, you know, and I think it's important that people think of the intangible benefits that you might necessarily see as a business owner or within your business. You know, it's the wider impact that people can have on the community. It's huge.
It's been very interesting in this webinar series. We've talked a lot about, you know, economic development and the profit-driven, you know, teachings of economics that are out there, and a failure in economics really to consider the planetary boundaries that we have. And, you know, I was really heartened, Margaret, when you spoke about sustainable profitability. How much of it was driven for each of you around the environmental side, and, you know, not just this constant growth, constant profit, constant massive production and delivery, and more thinking of it in a more sustainable from a planetary perspective or an environmental perspective? I'm just curious, was that a motivation for any of the companies?
Go, Mary.
My finger was on the trigger.
Great.
I think for our co-founders of Altada, the motivation was definitely well-being, and the sustainability piece, you know, so even creating more inclusive cities, you know, that SDG goal as well. So by, you know, just for example, you know, one of our employees being able to spend time with their parents on the Friday for coffee, for example, they're getting more insight into how accessible a city is, or a town or a village, and what benefits that they can make in terms of universal design. So they wouldn't necessarily have that if they were out on a Saturday or Sunday. So again, it's just those little things that people may not think about. So for Altada, it was definitely an ESG was definitely the motivator.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, when we started at the beginning, certainly wellness, staff retention, happiness, they were factors. The climate concept, or, you know, I mean, back in 2019, we weren't all talking about climate action. You know, we didn't have the climate action plan and all these steps where we all felt involved. But now as we move on, we had a really great webinar recently. Everybody stopped working on World Earth Day, and we took 15 minutes and everybody came onto the call and made a commitment to what they were going to do in order to sort of make changes around our uses of electricity, our uses of the car, walking, all these kind of things. And I think as an organization, prior to the 4-day week, we wouldn't have had the culture that drove that. And again, this came from the ground. It came from some people in the organization. They're sending, you know, they wanted us to change our logo for the day, and we did that. And all these initiatives coming from the staff. And maybe it's because we have that time on a Friday or a Monday to be thinking about this stuff. Maybe that's what made the difference. But certainly, I'm telling you, go back 5 years ago, if somebody said, oh, we're all going to stop for World Earth Day for 15 minutes at 11 o'clock on a Thursday, we'd be going, are you out of your tree here? You know, we don't want to be part of those. But it's a journey we've come on. And I'm proud of it. You know, I mean, it's where we should all be and where we should all go. And we just need time.
It's progress, and it's certainly heartening to hear, you know, in terms of a business perspective. I suppose you mentioned generations, and this is something that I suppose I'm struck by. You know, my generation, we would have, and I'm very young, of course, but my generation would have grown up in school. We would have been taught that, you know, you work hard, you get a good job, you earn lots of money, you do well. And I think this generation, thankfully, are not being, you know, fed that mantra. It's more about quality of life, I think, my perception of it anyway, and about livability and having a good life. And I suppose there is more planetary awareness and environmental awareness in this generation as well. So is there something about attracting staff, because it is you know, we have very low unemployment at the moment, and it is hard to get staff. Was that something that was a motivation for each of your companies, or are you noticing that it's attracting more staff because you have this offering of a 4-day week? And maybe is it a younger generation that are seeking that, or maybe a more mature employees? Just out of just interested in your observations in terms of that.
Well, look, certainly for us, talent attraction and talent retention was really, really important. Because we were a small organization, what we would find is people would come and they would work with us for 2 years, maybe 3 years. And then all of a sudden they go and work in the multinational organizations because they get higher pay and greater growth opportunities. And that's changed now. I'm not certain that it's a generational thing, Denise. I think whether, you know, like our lady on reception has loads and loads of experience. Our financial controller has loads and loads of experience, and they love the 4-day week equally as much, in fact, probably more than the younger people, because of the fact that we've done it the hard way. Like, we've worked those hard work, you know, and now the younger people are getting, you know, we've plowed that furrow for them, and they're coming along behind us, which is brilliant. And I'm proud, and I'm inspired by Phil and Mary and you know, these other companies here to sort of say, yeah, look at Ireland, look at what we're doing for the people who work for our employees and for Ireland Inc. I think it's inspiring.
That's great. Mary,
yeah.
did you say something?
I'd agree as well with Margaret. I don't think it is a generational thing.
Okay.
Definitely not. Like, I come from a background of a family that celebrated 50 years in business, and I'm sure my parents would have certainly have enjoyed not working 7 days, at least if they could have worked 6. I don't think it's a generational thing. I mentioned our well-being survey, and the top 3 age groups were actually, when we looked at the happiness pillar, was actually the baby boomer generation. So typically around the age of 45 and upwards, and that predominantly has to do with having the Friday off. I think on the flip side as well, what you could say is that maybe younger generations like Gen Z and, you know, millennials Even though I think I'm borderline depending on what I look up. You know, I think it's having that sense of purpose. So, you know, 60% of people are more inclined to leave a job now for lesser pay to have a sense of purpose.
Yeah, right.
So I think that also ties into the conversation. That's another kind of layer of complexity to it. So I wouldn't think it's a generational thing, which is great.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah, brilliant. Phil?
Yeah, like both Mary and Margaret, hit the kind of nail in the head. I mean, like one of the big things for us at the time, apart from staff retention, was, I might have mentioned this before, but Richard Branson came out with a great quote, that you look after your employees and they look after your customers. And I mean, that's, I suppose, in some ways, that's what I'm trying to, develop and build on. And, a lot of my team, they've been with me since some 2008, 2012, a long time. And with any luck, they'll be with me into the future. Do you know what I mean? So they've seen it all. The 5-day week, the 4-day week. But again, it's by far more positive now since 2019 because they are reaping the benefits. And, it is good to see sitting down at an interview and, someone coming and you would say, look, we do a 4-day week. Is that something you'd be interested in? And you could see them smiling because some of them could have been on 6 days somewhere else, or a flexi time or overtime, nighttime shifts, and it's just it is a huge attraction and benefit, but it has the positive outcomes as well. So.
Fantastic. And can I just ask you, Phil, maybe because we're running out of time, there's a question here from Social Innovation Careers Fund Ireland. How would you deal, or how do you deal with those working 80% hours on reduced salary and then moving all staff to reduced hours on full salary? Did you have that issue where somebody was already working a 4-day week on a reduced salary and then you made this policy decision, or how would you suggest even it would be dealt with?
We were, I suppose, look, we do have a few of the team on 20 hours a week, that, and so, but like we've just kind of worked around it. It's trying to be as inclusive as we can. I mean, the thing with us at the moment is we actually have, out of the 12 in the team, 10 of them are women, and so we've, over the years, we've had babies and funerals and all sorts. But the key to coming back from maternity leave, and it is why some of them just wanted to do the 3 days a week or the 20 hours, and I've done my best to try and work around it and bringing them on board as well. And so, like, we have found common ground, and I think, as being a business owner, and that's what you have to try and do, is sit down with every case is it's separate and individual. You can't you can't blanket going, look, this is going to work. You can get something that works for 90% of people, but then you will have odd cases that you will just have to sit down and go, right, how can we treat this or do it slightly differently? And you find a common ground and just make that work.
There's no set formula as such.
No.
It's individual based. Yeah, thanks for that. Thank you all so much. That's been such an interesting and inspiring conversation. I'll be certainly happy to be sharing this link with people in terms of your approach, and it's great to see examples of it in practice here in Cork. And a national pilot going on. So thank you all for your time this afternoon, and the recording of this will be on the website. I'll be sharing that with everybody who's registered here today. This is our last Greening Our Cities webinar until after the summer. We'll be in touch again in the autumn with some more. We have a questionnaire there from SurveyMonkey. If anybody has the time, we'd really appreciate your feedback and suggestions on future topics for this series. Thank you all for staying with us. Have a lovely summer, enjoy the sunshine, and we'll see you in the autumn. And thank you to all the partners, Vicky in particular, for hosting us so well for the last number of months, and all the partners that are involved in this partnership.
Thanks, Denise.
Thanks, Phil.